Voters for 350. I'm 15 years old, an environmental activist, and I'm one of the young people, wasn't in that picture, suing the government over climate change. So, my state government. So, I'm just going to talk a little bit about what you can do and kind of local actions that are being done by young people, by kids all under 18. So if we can do it, you can do it too. Okay, so we already went over that. One thing that gets missed a lot is when we talk about the environment, we think of it as it's separate. I think one of the most misleading titles to my activism is being called an environmental activist. Like I'm just helping save something that's distant, but we breathe air, we drink water, so environmental rights are human rights and vice versa, because when we don't have air, when we don't have clean water, we're toast. So it's not so much about me trying to save something else out of my good heart or whatever, it's more of me being selfish, thinking that, well, guess what, I'm going to be living in this world, my entire generation, all youth, are going to be living in this world without clean air or clean water, we're screwed. So, and a healthy atmosphere and all of this. So if people don't want to, I think saving the planet is also extremely misleading. This giant rock of Earth will be here a long time no matter what we do. It's about whether the conditions for our survival are there. So we're saving humanity, not saving the planet. I get really annoyed when I see something that's like saving the Earth, saving the planet. No, this giant rock revolving around the sun is going to be there. It's about whether we want to be here. So it's saving ourselves.
And the animals that we use.
Yeah, and the animals that we use, and the trees we breathe, everything. It's all interconnected, and the fact that we've lost sight of that is why we're in this big ditch right now. So I'm suing the government, not just me. I'm with this organization called Our Children's Trust, and I'm guessing the video is not going to work, so I'll just explain. Pretty much, this organization called Our Children's Trust is a nonprofit where lawyers there are working for free, helping youth elevator voices to the legal level, and they're the ones, there are lawsuits all over the country, and there's one giant federal lawsuit where 21 young people, including a friend of mine who also does this activism and is also suing the Washington state government, are suing the entire United States, saying we have a constitutional right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and you are denying us that by knowing that fossil fuel emissions were bad. They knew in about like 1950 that it was wrong, and they had the projections then. But then they knew that and continued. It's not about doing nothing. It's that they're continually making it worse. They're not even doing nothing. They don't even have the decency to do nothing about it. They're making it actively worse, actively more fossil fuel projects. So we're suing them over that, saying that they're basically, it's a giant crime against all young generations. And I wish the video would have worked, but it kind of talked about how this is a parallel to Brown versus Board of Education. It's the next Brown versus Board of Education, this lawsuit. And just Google youth versus government, and it was on the front page of CNN. It's everywhere, kind of about the grounds for this lawsuit and why it's so historic. And what we're trying to get out of this is say that it's no longer legal for the government to give polluters permits to allow new fossil fuel projects. It's actually infringing on every young person ever's right to life. Yeah. So, yeah, there's the public trust doctrine that's in a lot of state constitutions that says young people have the rights to essential resources like air, water, things we need to live, and those are being denied because there's no regulations on our air and water. There are, but they're really insufficient, and polluters are allowed to just wreck all the resources that we will need. Okay, so this is some boring science, I know. 410 parts per million is how you measure carbon in the air. We're at 410 parts per million right now. To give you a sense of how awful that is, we were at 280 is like natural, where humans evolved, where life is supposed to be. So in about 100 years, we went from 280 to 410. And the level we need to get down to is 350 parts per million, and it was found out by called the godfather of climate science, James Hansen. And what's really annoying is a lot of these people who make themselves out to be great climate guys, oh, I care about the environment, like Jay Inslee. Now, I think he's our governor, I think he's a good-hearted guy, I think he has good intentions, but because of the fossil fuel lobby. There's about 22 lobbyists per politician. The fossil fuel is like in their ear all the time, trying to get them to do favors. So when things like the clean air rule were passed, they barely reduce anything, that it's pretty much just fake progress for politicians to put on their resumes. Like, oh look, I made this clean air rule, but it doesn't do anything to get us down to 350 parts per million, which is where we need to be. And so I've had a lot of very frustrating moments with the governor and other politicians where they're just like, oh, they pretty much what they do when you're a young person is they pat you on the head and be like, oh, good job, keep up the good work, you're so cute, let me take these pictures with these kids to show that I'm a nice person. And then they turn around and either make a really weak law, do nothing, or support a fossil fuel bill. And that's very hard to take, but we're fighting. And I know these people, it's not that they're malicious, it's just that they hear so much from the fossil fuel lobby. Okay, so another thing is intersectionality. If you care about the Black Lives Matter movement, if you care about feminism, if you care about whatever other human LGBT rights, all of these things, marginalized communities like LGBT people, low-income people, people of color, women, just anyone are going to have it worse in some way. So about 63% of coal plants are built by people of color, communities of color, and it's not that CO2 is racist, it's that the government, when no one wants to have a coal plant. Like, I breathed in smoke for 2 weeks, and I was like, oh my god, I hate this, how can anyone live like this? No one wants to breathe in that. And so they try to put it near places where people will, I don't want to say have less of a voice, I don't want to insult these people, but where our government systematically oppresses them so they won't be able to resist as well. Like Dakota Access Pipeline, it's not a coincidence, it's on native land. That's not a coincidence, it's because they were going to drive it through the pipeline through a majority white town. The white people are like, we don't want it, and they're just like, cool, let's just put it on conveniently on this native land. And so if you care about indigenous rights, Black Lives Matter, just do some research. Time is limited, I don't want to bore you to death, but talk you to death, but if you care about all these other issues, there's a connection. And so you don't have to choose, well, do I fight for Black Lives Matter, do I fight for climate change? This is an intersectional issue. Learn that word intersectionality means all issues connect. And so that's one important takeaway. A lot of times it's annoying. I saw those governors, and usually the people who are considered the face of climate change, usually they're white privileged men, and those are not the people who are hit the most. I mean, Al Gore is an awesome guy, but I feel like the voices that we need to elevate more are the people who are on the front lines of this, so like indigenous people and people of color who are breathing in live by these coal plants, youth who have asthma, and so we have to take that into account. And a lot of times what's driven people out of the climate movement, and from people I've talked to, it just seems to be exclusive for like white male scientists, and that's how it's been for a long time. So I think it's important to spotlight the local activism and appreciate the resistance, like indigenous people were the original activists before activism was even a word. So okay, so now what I'm working on, I have two for now. One of them is in the works, but I'm not going to announce it until, yeah. Okay, the first one is gas pump warning labels. And so what's happening with the fossil fuel industry is literally history repeating itself with what happened with the tobacco industry. Now, if I walked up to you and handed you a cigarette and said, smoke this because it's good for you, you'd look at me like I'm nuts, right? But a while back, people used to not think smoking was bad for you, and the same like climate denial, like, well, is it real, is it not, was exactly the same thing that the cigarette industry did, where it was just like, it was just this debate, are cigarettes really cause cancer, are they okay? Now everyone's just like, even people who smoke aren't proud of it. It's like, yeah, I have this bad habit, I need to quit because it's gonna cause me all these issues. Or if they're smoking, they're like, yeah, I'm gonna get, people know. What if, and the same lawyers they lost that fight with the smoking, and now we know it's bad because of warning labels that were put on smoking saying that like this causes cancer and other advancements. And the same lawyers who were defending the tobacco industry, the exact same law firms are defending the fossil fuel industry. And so they were wrong every time. They've been wrong. These industries that they've been wrong with tobacco and they're wrong with fossil fuels. And so we're facing the biggest crisis that humanity has ever faced in history. And right now, it's not going to solve everything, but one big step is to put warning stickers on gas pumps. Right now, when you fill in your car, you don't see the petroleum going into the car. It's just like you insert it, and it just seems like a harmless thing to do. But we could take that opportunity. Everyone needs to fill in their car. We could take that opportunity to educate people very quickly about what's going on, and then make people feel like something's wrong with fossil fuels and demand alternatives. And that's with putting a warning label. So they would say, like, every time you see it on the gas pump, it's small because this thing is being annoying. But I wish I had my little gas pump. I was just at the city council's office earlier this morning. We took a bus to city council with a few of the other youth, and we were talking with some of the city councilors about making this happen. Because if you see on the gas pump, it would just be every time you put gas in your car, there would be a little sticker. For example, I have a little picture and say, warning, use of this fossil fuel products contributes to climate change, which causes drought and famine. Warning, use of this fuel product causes asthma in children and raises chances of lung cancer. Warning. And so if you see that on your people who aren't very educated on this will think there's something wrong, and of course you still have to put gas in your car, and so it's not going to like make everyone suddenly stop using cars, but it will educate people. It'll make people feel like uneasy with what's going on and like something's wrong with this, and just kind of that if we pass this in Seattle, which is what we're trying to do, other more progressive cities will catch on, and then the less, and then up until the whole country, which is our goal. But we're going to get sued by the fossil fuel industry if Seattle does it. So right now, oh yeah, sorry, I know, short on time. So the second project I'm working on is getting young people, building a network of young people around the Washington state to lobby our politicians. So for every politician, this is what I found researching a lot of sources, there are around like 22 lobbyists in their ear. A lot of those is petroleum. And so what if there were around 22 youth in their ears constantly telling them about what's happening? And so if you can write this down, I wish the Wi-Fi was working, but it's not. This is a very light URL, but it's www.futurevotersfor350ppm. 350 ppm is the level we need to get down to. And we're trying to build this network so then we can pass bills. As you saw, like a lot of the bills were very insufficient, so if we can pass bills that will actually help us save our future. So we would create a legislative agenda with young people. That's me and some of the other plaintiffs, we've been doing some lobbying. That's us. Back here is us testifying and talking to politicians, so we're doing a lot of that. More of us speaking out. That's me. That picture where I'm giving that guy a nasty look is me talking to a petroleum lobbyist. When I went to go testify in Washington Council over the carbon tax, it's when I really saw it in person, the oil lobby, because I was literally faced with like entire rows of petroleum lobbyists, and I got into nasty fights with like a lot of them. I don't know, I see like their things that say like some petroleum industry, and I immediately pick conversations, which is a bad idea because you're never going to get through to them. But I tried to talk to this guy about climate change, and it didn't work, and someone caught a picture of me giving him an annoyed look. But that just goes to show that the reason why we haven't solved this issue is because the petroleum lobby has their hands deep into government, and so that's what we're trying to fix. So how does action look like for you? You sat through this. Thank you so much for giving your evening to listen to us. That really means a lot. I know you guys have a lot. I know you guys have a lot going on in your lives, and the fact that you came here really means a lot. So after listening to this presentation, I really want you guys to think about what does action look like for you. It can be a combination of things. There's no one solution. Are you going to join an organization? Are you going to make lifestyle changes? Are you going to make a combination of both? Are you going to Google climate reality training and see if you too can sport one of these fancy pins and get trained by Al Gore himself for 3 days. We all who presented got to be with Al Gore. Does the training. It's not like we're screening movies. Like Al Gore himself is literally there telling you how to train other people and take action for 3 days, and it's free. So if you guys just Google climate reality and see if you guys can do that. But I'm going to wrap up, and I hope that you will take some awesome climate action.